How's it, South Africans and people of the world? My name is Amahle-Imvelo, and this is Jacks of All Trades, the podcast where we speak about everything from politics to pop culture, skills, and people's stories. Because every JOAT is a goat in the making.
Please stop sending me that Amahle Jacks video. I urge you, please stop sending it to me.
So I had obviously said to you guys that every now and then I'm going to sprinkle a guest in. And sometimes that guest might be famous. Sometimes they might be a leader of industry. And this one happens to be both. And we are in his home because my idea for when I would interview guests is that I wanted to see where they create or where they work, the environment that they're in. And so Yanga has so graciously allowed me into his house. Furniture was being assembled yesterday. Thank you for making it pretty for me.
No
But yeah, Yanga, let's get into this. How are you?
I'm good. Really good, actually. Yeah, I'm having a good time.
I'm lacquer. So I'm going to give you a statement and then I'm going to pose a question to you. So, esiXhoseni, for those of you who don't know, Yanga always follows Ingosi. There's always like a saying like, Yanga, Ingosi, da-da-da-da-da, right? Yanga, Ingosi, da-da-da. So this is the one I found. Yanga, Ingosi, Inganan... You can tell I did Afrikaans for 12 years. Yanga, Ingosi, Inganandisa, Inityebise, eluthandweni, omnye komnye, nakubo bonke, njengokuba nathi senzile kuni. And for those of you who unfortunately are not Xhosa, what this means is, may the Lord make your love increase and overflow for each other and for everyone else, just as ours does for you. So my question to you is that your name is Yanga Chief.
Yeah.
And Yanga Ingosi quite literally implies a chief. Was that the source of you getting your stage name?
That became the eventual source.
That's what I was started.
It's something actually a little bit more childish, to be honest. I think I was running around somewhere where we used to all call each other Chief. Me and my friends. And then someone, like I knocked on the door and like, who is it? And I was like, it's Yanga Chief. And I was like, I like that, you know? So stuck with that. But, over time just moved it on to the prayer because, it just made sense. Yeah. I think it was just always meant to be what you're saying. But how I stumbled on it was a totally different way.
So it all came together in the end, essentially. Yeah. For those of you who are Christian, that is 1 Thessalonians chapter 3. Chapter 3, verse 12. So then I want to speak a little bit about your background, right? You come from a very, very small town called Queenstown.
Yeah,
Actually, it's called Komani now. Excuse me. We've had that renamed. And I wanted to find out how growing up in Queenstown, living in that town has molded you into the artist that you are today.
Well, I think it's like 90% of like who I am because it wasn't just Queenstown. The whole province just felt like very small and like very homely,
Yeah.
I used to go to Kofimvaba, my mom's home, almost every holiday. I used to go to Klakbari, my dad's home, almost every holiday. So we never really stuck around during the holidays in Queenstown.
Yeah.
It was always just like for school and, but because of Queen's College being such a multicultural institution, you had people from all over Eastern Cape.
Yeah.
And so like you kind of just like had a sense of people from places that you've never even been to.
Yeah.
And I think that helped me like adapt quicker when I got to Joburg.
Yeah.
And it's always just been like a cornerstone of who I am because there's a still, I'm very small town minded, but it saved me from a lot of things that I think because of the industry that I'm in and the things I'm pursuing, Joburg might have like steered me off the path.
Yeah.
So I'm very appreciative and grateful to the Eastern Cape as a whole for how grounded I became because of it.
Yeah, and I think we hear a lot of those references like in your music.
Yeah.
The constant reminder that I am iDyan
Yeah.
from and we'll get to the album.
Okay.
But like I'm iDyan from the Eastern Cape. Your siblings.
Yes.
I know your siblings because for those of you who don't know, we were neighbors. He always used to think he was cooler than rap.
I was.
You never used to greet. You used to walk ahead of us when we would walk to school, and you were like just this cool guy who never used to greet. But you know, your one sibling, Uyamgela, has a master's in music.
Yeah.
Your sister is in finance, but she has a very successful social media page that's a book club, right?
Sure.
So you guys have a lot of creativity in you, I must assume.
Yeah.
And I want to know if that was nature, in the sense that were you born with that as Onjagaza, or is it something that your parents nurtured?
Yo, I actually investigated this because at some point in your life, you actually want to figure out, like, are you just like a crazy person? Or like, is it in the blood? Is it in the family? You know? So I investigated this and I realized when I was growing up, I think, you know, from my dad's side, my dad his grandmother is from Meadowlands. And his dad is obviously from Klakbar. So whenever he had holidays, he would go to Soweto, you know, and he'd then come back, and everyone called him Umjita because he'd come back with all like the Joburg dance moves.
Okay.
And he'd be teaching everyone.
I get it.
Which I kind of find a little bit hard to believe because I can't dance for anything. You know what I mean?
I see. Also, you're not going to get it all.
You
God
know?
gives and takes with both hands.
Yeah. So I think there's a balance of like education and talent, because my mom is a teacher. She's been a teacher all my life. And I think if you look at my siblings, Uyamgela, for example, he was studying law first in Bloem, in New Offs, and he was like, nah, he's done with this. He's doing music, and he's coming here to Joburg, and I must make a plan because he's the next big thing. And I said, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
I've been down this road before, and the road that I travel isn't something that I would wish on like my worst enemy.
Yeah.
So I had to find a way to kind of like safeguard him from all the tough lessons that I went through.
As an older sibling, as we all do,
Yeah, so I made a deal with him. I'm like, okay, cool. If you go to Rhodes, where your sister was studying, and you actually study music, and then you graduate and you come to Joburg with like any piece of paper that says you have an education in this thing, then everything I have, I'll just give it to you. You will be Yanga Chief in my eyes. I quit. I'm managing you. Like, I'm opening all the doors. And he went to study music 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, graduated. By the time he graduated, he had no desire to set foot in Joburg to be an actual musician. You know?
Oh, wow.
And he fell in love with like the trade, like the theory, the music theory.
Okay.
The discipline.
All right.
Of music. So that's where the education bug, I think, gripped him as well. My sister always been an academic from day
We
one.
remember.
My sister's not like a genius, but like she's the epitome of like hard work.
Yeah.
She works her way into any room, any table, any job, you know. And I think that's a great balance of my dad and my mom, because my dad was like a Rolling Stone hustler guy.
So you?
My mom was just like, you know, let's do things step by step. So it's a combination, and I think both sides are actually within the family.
And do you have an influence from your brother from a music perspective? Do you speak to him and say like, listen to this, and technically what do you think about this? Or
I always like send him like the album when I think it's done. It usually takes like another 6 months from the point where I think it's done to it actually being releasable in my head. So I always like run it past him, and he has his notes and, you know, all the things he wants to say. And I don't do well with advice.
I've heard you're a hard person to work with. You said it yourself.
Yeah, I think when someone gives me advice, in fact, I was watching who's this? I was watching Director X.
Okay.
His interview, and he's like, you know, when someone, if he says something must be blue, and someone says, you know what if we make it red? That person is fired on the spot. But if the person says, what if we make it navy or turquoise or teal, you know, then it's like, okay, cool, we're working, because that person is adding to his idea, maybe making it better or showing it in a sense that he didn't see it. But red is something completely different. That's someone else's idea completely. So you can't really work with
almost
like that.
Almost stripped away the identity of the idea as opposed to adding on to it.
Exactly. So like the final product is going to be not of you. It's not your thing. It's just a combination of things that work. It's just like, now it's pink.
I hear you.
You know what I mean? So I think I'm a little bit like that. But I also like to challenge people when they give me their reasons as to why they think the song should be like this. I'm like, let me challenge that. You know? So I'm a very like indecisive person as well. So very difficult to work with. Yeah.
So okay, cool. So you leave Queenstown and you move to Joburg, and you study, but somehow you find yourself running around with squatter camp.
Yes.
And I think this is a story you've told many times. So I won't deep into like that whole thing, but just give me a little bit into how you get to, because at the time they were huge.
Yeah.
How do you get your foot in the door with squatter camp and you are now running around with them?
Yeah, first I think I was just always obsessed with squatter camp. I think I even mentioned it on What If. Like, Squatter Camp is Khali, it was the song I heard at my first party that my mom allowed me to go to.
Yeah.
And I just stood by the DJ booth when he was done, took the CD, went home, dubbed that thing, sent it back.
Destiny, when you burn the CD.
Burned it, copied it, guys, copied the thing. You know, and then I went back home. So I didn't actually go to my first party that I was allowed to go to. And I just sat there and I listened. So working with Squatter Camp was a dream come true. Like my uncle used to call me Squatter Camp. I'd sit in his car and play the album and kill his battery.
Yeah.
You know, how did I get to working with them? Apart from it being like destiny, I think like I was just creative about how I approached them.
Yeah.
I just offered to follow Slick around and not ask or want for anything. And my responsibility was just to show up at his office every day and help him with whatever he wants.
Yeah.
You know. And then that was the reason I ended up dropping out.
And then I'm sure your mom, who's the teacher, was like, "Oh, Ngosi."
I didn't even tell her until like I'd been working with Slick for like a year. Like by the time I only told her like when the results for second year came out.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any to show.
And you were like, for a year now, I've actually.
Remember that squatter camp guy?
I actually work with him now.
Homie, yeah.
And what is something that you learned either from Slick or squatter camp or whatever, that period, that you still hold to today? Like if there's a principle or lesson, you know, that you hold on to from that era.
With Slick, there was, you know, I think the biggest thing was friendships. You know, I had been a person that, quote unquote, people pleaser, always trying to be friends with everybody, big circle of friends.
Yeah.
And he taught me to just cut all of that down and cut it out. Actually, like being alone for a period of time is highly beneficial to something you're chasing that you can't see.
Yeah.
But you can feel, or you're the only one that has an idea what it takes. The friends are going to always change your mind and slow you down and make you settle for something lesser than what is in your head.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing that I learned, but also that was my first experience making a friendship like a family type of relationship.
Yeah.
Because they felt responsible to take care of me because I was obviously Eastern Cape and I don't have a home out here.
Yeah.
And so I went to so many family functions, you know, met all
from each one. Yeah.
And they, you know, my mom kind of like had a, you know, they were speaking a lot, you know. And so those are the two things that I think have, you know, I've still carried with me, the friendship and the family element.
The sustenance of having or rather the maintenance of a good friendship.
Yeah.
And like showing up when you have to show up and being there for your friends.
That's why you can't have too many of them,
because then you don't have enough
you gotta
time.
show up. Exactly.
No, I hear you. Okay, now I want to speak a little bit about your process, right?
Yeah.
You guys can't see this, but I'm looking at his recording studio. Yeah. And when I called him and I was like, I want to be in your studio, he was like, Jax, I record everywhere.
Yeah.
You in my bedroom, in the bathroom, in like the lounge, whatever the case may be. What is the process, not necessarily of making an album for you, but of making a song? Does it start with writing? Does it start with the beat? How does that go?
Maybe I think first step would be silence. First step. And then the thoughts just come in like fighting each other, you know, and then they kind of start making like a sound.
Yeah.
You know, and then the kind of like general feeling kind of like seeps in. And then I start panicking because I know like I need to like...
What did Black say? Anxiety.
Anxiety. So I need to like find a way to capture this thing, like almost like trap it.
Before it disappears.
Yeah, because I feel like ideas are for everyone. Like if we're in the same room, we're bound to have the same ideas. And that just works through like in general. So like if an idea comes to you, and you get it and you sit with it and you don't use it, it's going to go to somebody else. And you're going to wake up tomorrow and then, Yanga started a podcast as well. Like, Yanga, you know?
Yeah.
So if you don't execute it, then it leaves you, right?
100%.
And the longer you don't exercise, you don't become like a vessel that, you know, ideas can come to and come to life.
Yeah.
Then you start losing those ideas.
For me, it's this idea that, funny I say that idea, but it's this, how I always view it is that it's not your idea, it's just a thought until you make it come true, right? So like you're saying, a lot of ideas, all of us have had ideas to do things, but until you kind of put pen to paper and actually make it, that was just a passing thought. 100%. And there's so many of those that happen.
It's not going to wait for you. Either.
Yeah. So then you've contained the idea.
Yeah.
And then do we write? Do we find the beat? What do we do next?
Usually write 4 bars.
Okay.
4 bars will tell me if it's worth pursuing or the idea's gone, we scrap it.
Okay.
If I have a good solid 4 bars, then I am like, you know, a rat cheese on this thing. Like, I am on it. And usually finding a beat, which is difficult for me in essay. I think I find all my beats online and then like tear them apart or like take a portion of the beat and build something else that suits me. But yeah, and then once I have that, you know, I record the first 4 bars and then it takes me like under an hour to complete the thing. And one other thing I've learned as well, like I have to finish songs, whether I've only got 1 verse in me or not. You know, so
whether that verse sucks or not, you have to finish the song.
I have to finish the song because I need to wake up tomorrow and play the song for what it is.
Okay.
Without whatever I was feeling tired or angry about a personal thing yesterday or whatever.
Yeah.
I need to then wake up in the morning and listen to it as an actual song and then figure out if it's something that I want to share.
Yeah.
Because I don't write songs with like, I want to write a song about this. I don't do that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I kind of just like sit there and like write. And then at the end of the song, I'm like, damn, that is how you feel about this. It's very therapeutic like that because I hear my actual thoughts about things that I'm probably not talking about to other people.
Subconsciously or things that are bothering you in your subconscious.
I'm not honest with myself with. You know? Then I'm listening and I'm like, damn, but I actually do feel like that, you know.
I get that. Yeah. That's so interesting to me because I think, I guess we've all seen the documentaries. You know, you get Jay-Z goes in there and he freestyles or he hears the beat first and then he freestyles. But I just want to quickly touch on you take apart the beat. So you also produce?
No, I don't make beats.
Okay.
I don't make beats. I love an engineer who can make beats.
Okay.
And I love saying, play this melody. I'm like,
oh, you're a
change
curator.
the drums like this. Bring this for,
Yeah.
I build songs both ways.
Okay, guess on that. Okay, cool. And then before I get into the album, I'm going to speak about that time you said you quit. Excuse me, guys, I'm a bit sick. Excuse me. So I bumped into you at Groove, and we hadn't seen each other in a long time. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing now? Where's the music? Where's this? The age-old question that you probably hate from people. And then you say to me, Jax, I'm done. And I said, what do you mean you're done? And you said, no, I'm done making music. It doesn't fulfill me anymore. I see no point in it. What was happening outside of a lot of trauma that you'd gone through, and I'm sure everyone knows about that, but outside of that, what were you going through that said to you, I'm done making music?
Yeah, I think there was it's kind of like there's a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
First of all, it just wasn't making any financial sense.
Okay.
On paper. It was just like this passion thing that I'm taking a bit too seriously, Secondly, I didn't feel any immediate support like around me. I must remember when I got into the industry, I put my ambitions and of making music on hold for whatever artist I believed in, right? And
got you.
I also believe that that's like what makes an artist. You have to have people that believe in you around you, that believe in you more than you.
Yeah.
To take you and carry you through these ups and downs, right?
Okay, got you.
And I just didn't have any of that support. And I looked at all the artists that I felt like I had, been with. And I'd seen them, reach dizzy heights.
Flourishing.
And it's almost like when you decide, like, okay, I'm done now shooting videos for you guys. I'm going to do my own thing. Everything just goes to...
So there's no reciprocation.
There's no, okay, cool. No, let's go. Yo, what you need, There's none of that. And I think becoming an artist down the line, I kind of understood why. But at the time... there was obviously a conversation because I had a lot of like features that were really, really successful. And like the singles weren't like, they weren't like at that level. Yeah. In terms of like reception and success.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just felt like I started like, okay, you guys might be onto something because...
That I'm not good enough.
Yeah, clearly I can't make one for myself. And I'm tired of like, yo, listen to this one. Yo, listen to this one. Yo, bump this one, And I kind of like bought into that. And then I thought to myself, you know what, maybe I just know too much. Because what I've learned from artists is that they just stick to whatever it is they do.
What works, the formula.
Yeah. And then everybody else around them contributes to it being something else different to the last thing. Yeah. And it having a little bit more bells and whistles here. And then this one being stripped down. Like most artists just rap. And they have a good team around them to actually create this thing and design it in a way where it's like, yo, did you see the one he came with now? Yeah. But for me, because I was also behind the scenes, I was both those people, and that was like just a roadblock for me, being an artist and being the creative guy. Yeah. So I just like felt like I knew too much about making a song.
And that was hindering.
Yeah, and I was like, every time I come to making a song, I'm thinking, yeah, but this crowd likes this music. Oh, these guys wouldn't. Let me change this word so that in Soweto it works. Okay, and then here in Cape Town, there's just a mess on the table. And hence I made Utatakho because I was just like, shout out to everybody, but I knew Yo Mandela. And this is quasi.
I just was to Kulule
but this Kulule.
context. No, I get it.
Yeah, so I just like, I'm just gonna do my own thing, and I'm gonna do it so aggressively and so cocky and so like not giving a fuck. And that's what people want. That's crazy.
No, but I guess I think with musicians, and you'll tell me if I'm wrong. Sir, please can you pass me my jersey? This house is freezing.
Sorry.
I think with musicians, we expect them. Thank you. We expect them to be what we are not, right? So I don't want a sad artist. I don't want an artist who's not confident in themselves. Sure. I don't want, because exactly.
Sure.
You know, you kind of almost, you want them to emulate the person you could possibly become.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's such a predicament, because an artist is also at times not confident, or at times going through some shit, and that might not necessarily relate. And I think that's maybe what you were possibly going through. I mean, I'm not a therapist. I'm just a girl. And then Utatakho happens. And then you're almost stuck in the loop of Utatakho.
Let me explain.
Because then
Let me explain.
Yeah.
Everything that happened, I think, since Utatakho, that probably didn't like, yeah, I know there wasn't such a great thing for me.
Yeah.
I take full responsibility.
Okay.
I feel like I just waited and prayed for that moment in that song for so long. But by the time it happened, dude, I was starting like from day one. I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And my future things. I'm focused on, now that I got this song, I can do all of that. Yo, and I did it.
No regrets.
Yo. Like when I look at myself now and I look at the Utatakho period in my life, I laugh, dog. I'm like, you know, you're so blessed that you're still able to, you know, make something of yourself. Because, hey, man, I cannibalized that opportunity.
I think you did it well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first time we booked you as an artist, was in that era. You were late, but you couldn't. I'll forgive you.
I was, but I took my shirt off. I've never done it before or since.
So you're saying my reparations for you being late?
That sounds like, my bad.
But that was a fire performance, and I think you could tell in that moment that you were in that energy of like, I am that guy. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I think you deserved it at that point. Like you're saying, you had poured so much into everyone else, and then you finally had your moment, essentially.
Yeah. I finally had people, the people I was speaking about, that I didn't have before the song. I finally had them that would do anything for me and like protect me and show up and like.
And was there meaning in that for you?
Like, you know, at the time, I think you don't want it to get to your head. But I did let it get to my head, and I enjoyed letting it get to my head. You know, now I don't want to be perfect, bro.
Nobody should be.
I don't want to be, and I'm glad that like, I acted out crazy.
You got it out the system.
Yes, you know, fully, and I'm proud of how many people I brought with me during that time, and who I contributed to. Yeah. And it was never for me to say, yeah, I did this for you. Like, I just look at people and I'm like, damn, you are so good, dog. Like, I'm so glad, like, I got to work with you in the beginning. Yeah, you know? Yeah. That's how I look at it. And I'm just grateful that it didn't kill me, you know, that period.
Crazy. How crazy was this period?
Yeah, I mean, there's people that never make it back from that.
Fair.
You know?
Fair.
Like, you know, you used to be the Utatakho guy.
And that's it.
You know.
I remember we once booked Pitch Black Afro, and that's all he could perform, the one song.
Really?
Yeah.
I love the whole album.
I've lived a long life. Okay, but you were a purist and stuff. We were talking about...
in the Eastern Cape, that guy had a couple bangers.
Okay, I want to move into the album that has, and I kid you not, because I've messaged him about this, has captured my year outside of GNX. And I told you this. I said, you are the only album that has unseated GNX in my top most listened to albums. Yeah. Lord Faku, Life of a Dyan. Yes. Which I think is absolutely brilliant. Your best work ever.
Thank you.
Obviously, there's Becoming a Pop Star, I think it was. Yeah. And then, what was the one? Pop Star. Yeah. And then there's Lord Faku, Life of a Dyan. So it's almost as if there's this trajectory of you now coming to your final seat. Well, not your final seat. I expect more. But tell me, or rather, let me explain it like this. When I listen to that album, I hear Ndimwa Kona and Abandiva. I'm back, right? And then you've got Jesus, Peace, Sky, Peaceful Place, and that's you finding God. And then you've got What If, which is the best song on the album. And I just like to say, I have an I told you so moment. Hold on. So we're at the album launch.
Oh my goodness.
And this man is very excited. Obviously, he's just played us his entire album. It's brilliant. And I walk up to him and I say, and he asked me, Jax, do you like the album? And I said, I love the album, but Yanga, there's one song on that album that I think is fantastic. And I say to him, What If is brilliant. And I don't think you believe me.
No.
You didn't believe me, ne?
No.
And then so here's my proof. And then I wrote a story and I said, there's a song on the album called What If, which is an ode to this beautiful country of ours. Yanga Chief essentially questions, what if our Tambo didn't fight for freedom? What if Brenda Fassie didn't pursue her talent? What if Dr. Kumalo never touched a ball? I'm paraphrasing here, but what if? It just echoes what we've always known. This country is special. This country is full of talent. This country breaks records and wins championships. This country has some of the most beautiful cities and even better people. This is the best country in the world. More than anything, it's a reminder that it needs all of us to pull our weight to take it to even greater heights. That one just got me. No DNA, just RNA. I told you. That's all I've wanted to do, is to say, I told you. So before we get into What If, because I think that's a whole topic on its own, tell me about making Lord Faku, Life of a Dyan.
Oof. Like, where do we start?
Yeah. Let me say this. Let me start with the two songs. Velo Ndimgwa Khona and Abandiva. This feeling of the song that says, I've been gone, I almost quit. I mean, I guess many people don't know that, but I almost quit, but I'm back. And seemingly you guys are not hearing me that I'm back. Tell me about those two songs.
So Ndimgwa Khona was like the last song that I put on the album, but it was I made it before everything else. And then just disappeared in my laptop. And when I was submitting the album, I just decided I need to go through everything because I might be missing something.
Yeah.
And at the time, I think I was going to start the album with Ask God About Me. But the more I played the album and the more I started with that song, especially playing it for my circle of friends, it's just like, it's not giving, you know? And it's too like predictable and some you know, like, album is screaming, album intro, sit down, listen, you know? And I felt like, I just need to play something where it's like, okay, you know? You don't even know what to expect next. And I loved what I said in the hook because I probably wrote that maybe 3 years ago. And it was like the beginnings of me just like, you know, fuck everybody else, bro. Like, I'm still myself. I might not be, you know, Yanga Chief, like the greatest or whatever, but I'm still Yanga. You know, and that's something to be proud of. And I felt like it just set perfectly as an album intro. Because it sets the precedent of like what my mentality is and what place I'm speaking from throughout the project. I'm not begging for acceptance. I'm not asking for permission. You know, I'm actually just like, dude, who are you to give me any permission about anything, you know? So Abandiva I knew I needed to get it out early because that's personal. I really felt like that song doesn't have a hook, technically. You know, we just literally added the Brenda Fassie sample to just give a break, obviously, between. But it's like a freestyle getting it off your chest type of
Yeah.
rap, and I really felt like that because as much as you do amazing things back to back, all wins, at the end of the day, like people, they feel no shame in just mising you.
Yeah.
Dare you make a mistake.
There's a line that I really enjoy that says, you can buy the mpahla, you can never buy the cadence. Every single word is an ada. What is it?
Everything I started is a
something
dedication.
There it is. I felt that because it was almost like, you guys, not that anyone's trying to be me, but you can attempt it, but you'll never be me. You can dress like me. You can, you can steal my flow, my style, the way I shoot my music videos, but you'll never be me. And so it's now starting to make sense when you say to me, it was almost like a slight to, please beep that out. This is for YouTube. But yeah,
for me, do me a favor and take. I remember saying years ago, like, the big artists in rap, everybody wants to be this number one, whatever. I don't really care about being number one or number two or number three, as long as I'm still around. So I want you to take from me. If you're sitting at home thinking, I can rap better than this guy, rap better than me, bruv. Because what that does is that whatever I've done or contributed here in that moment, it now breeds 10 other rappers, and like the industry grows and there's competition.
Yeah.
And there's backs and forths with people, whatever, all great, take from me, please. Dress like me more, please. Look like me more. Like
I don't know. We'll see. And then we get into Jesus Peace, Sky, Peaceful Place, and I think this is the moment you connect to God.
Yeah.
And you've spoken about this, I think, multiple times in the album, but you then went through a period where you found God. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Look, in the first two songs, it's the arrogance of man.
Yeah.
That self-confidence, that ego
Yeah.
talk. And then God humbles you, like really fast, really quick, really easy. He humbles you, and you have to reckon with his might.
Yeah.
Because when God is upset,
You'll feel it.
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough that when I was going through that period I've made so many bad personal decisions. This is just like outside of music, like with my personal life and my love life and things like that.
Yeah.
Like I've ruined everything. I've ruined all my opportunities and focused on the wrong thing. And in that kind of like dark period, I stumbled across Kabelo Mabalane.
Bogalav.
Yeah. And he dressed this thing up as like, yo, celebrities, because you guys have like unique challenges and I understand them, come through to the home cell and, just sit. And slowly but surely, God started to just like pull me out of my own head. And then like when I was in his hands, I was like, wow, what an amazing place to be. And like, why would you grant me this sanctuary? I'm so undeserving. Do you know what I did last year? Did you hear about the, and so I just felt like, it's like a Jesus walks type of moment. And I didn't want to make it sad. And, I was just like, yo, in this space, like, because I'd go to the club even after like home cell and, and I just feel so like spiritual in the club. Like, like I feel good, not because of anything I'm wearing or amount of bottles on the table or the people I'm with.
It's internal.
Just like feel so good. I'm like, how do I express this in this hip hop environment? You know? And I think those songs were just me having a conversation with God, and like how amazing He is because He wouldn't judge me and tell me to take my cap off and all these things when I'm engaging with Him. And so like I think that those three songs. Jesus Peace, it's a like I'm talking about the jewelry that everyone's wearing, but also like the peace that God gives you.
Yeah.
Peaceful place. You know, I was actually just telling like 25K of like, you know, Queenstown and the Eastern Cape.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah.
you know, I come from a different place. You know, everyone's proud, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be like, but of making it out like the hood and the violence and the gangs, and you know, I'm proud of just coming from a quiet town, peaceful place with love and warmth.
Have you ever heard that thing where they say the spur in Queenstown before Vulelo?
Really?
Yeah, there's a joke on Twitter. They say the town is so small, knock. You have to knock to get into Spur. And then obviously there's War that you did with Nati.
Yes.
And you had spoken about this at your launch, that was one of the best experiences collaborating with another artist, because he came in and he just...
Brilliant.
He just, yeah.
Nati is like what I always wanted or thought I would be when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like just being able to just like hit that note and like just walk away like I didn't do anything crazy. Like, okay, maybe we can try another one. You know? He's like, and it's such like a calm person with like such a huge gift. Like it's like you can see it just by looking at him. Like you know. And the way that he's carried and been responsible about it. Because I didn't know much about Nati except from what I've seen online, you know? And so, like, I didn't know what to expect. Yeah. You know, except Ikhotman, you know, and like his tunes is huge, man. He's like such a great person. Yeah. And then when I watched him move, I was like, yeah, I could be like that too. Like, you know, I ain't gotta go crazy, like, because you must remember, like, I grew up, like, I came up in the industry with like really crazy, like, characters. Yeah. You know, your AKAs, your Deleuze, like everything must be there all the time. Otherwise, no one's hearing it. Yeah. And to see how he's carried himself and, you know, the things he's been able to do, I was just completely impressed by that. And where that song sits on the album, it touches like a conversation, you know, that I'd had with like my grandmother.
That's
like,
the whole premise of the song, is that you're with her.
And when I wrote it, like she keeps creeping up on my songs. Like if you listen to Soweto on becoming a pop star, at the end there, because she was sick, like she had dementia at the time, and she was still around. And I'm talking about God, like, just please save my grandmother, blah, blah, blah. Like, it has nothing to do with the song. Yeah. Like, it's right at the end, like, and I keep going on and on and on, you know? And I'm like, it's just her, like, just creeping in. And then, like, with this song, I had written something in preparation for Nati, and like, because I don't know what to expect. Right. And then, like, singing about my grandmother too much. He's not gonna like that scratch. Yeah. You know? And then we kind of like went back and forth with some songs, and then I played that one, and he's like, yeah, I'm jumping.
That's the one I want.
Yeah.
I believe in, okay, so I'm one of those people, you know me, I'm not necessarily the most Christian person. Sure. But I believe in the power of our grandmothers. Like for me, everything that I've achieved, it's always an ode to her. It's when I go home and I step into my grandmother's yard and then I come back to Joburg when all the blessings come through. So I relate with that song because I also sit in a room, even though she's no longer here, and I'm just like, I can feel your powers and your prayers and your blessings that you're bestowing upon me. So I think that's a very special song. But now let's get to my I Told You So. What if? Because, you know, I think the reason that song has power, and you'll tell me your version or what you think, I think it's because every single person has doubt. Right. And whether that doubt is in school, at work, the person that you love, whatever it might be, the way you manage to string it together. I mean, the first verse is obviously, what if all these people that we consider South African greats didn't do the things that they needed to do, right? But then in the second verse, it's also more like, what if me, Yanga Chief, I hadn't gotten myself out of this, or pursued going, to Slicker's office and dropping out of school, where would be now? And then it's almost motivational in the sense that like it forces people to think about taking a leap of faith.
Yeah.
How? Let's talk about. Yeah, tell me about that song.
I think you don't really know how patriotic you are until you're standing in a queue during elections and you're debating about this country. All of a sudden, you're fighting for it. But before then, you were just,
You're
this
just
is not
living.
working.
Pothole.
Until like you're in a situation where you have to defend your country and you realize how deep it actually goes. So for me, like that's what the first verse was about. Like I just feel like we're moving funny as South Africans, in a sense that like we're man-marking each other too much.
Yeah.
And to a point where it's spilling out onto other people's legacies, where we're like now, let's have a look at that Mandela guy. Actually,
Yeah, all of a sudden we're rewriting history.
Yeah, and that's because we're so used to pulling each other down, around each other.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like we should be, I should use you as inspiration for what I want to do.
Yeah.
I need whatever you're doing to work.
Yeah.
Because that's the only chance I have with this crazy idea in my head.
Yeah.
So I wanted to like, ask the question, because this day and age, like people don't want to be told things anymore.
Yeah.
They don't want that wisdom being given directly.
They want it to be their idea.
Just insinuate so I can pick it up. Like, you know what?
Didn't just insinuate.
Yeah. So I was asking the question, like, what if these people didn't do all these things? And funny enough, the reason I didn't know it was going to be such a big song was because I wrote it at a time where I was like really going through like that kind of phase, which was like around elections. I wrote it on the 29th of May.
Okay, we were voting.
That day.
Yeah.
And I wanted to drop it that day.
Yeah.
But I had like a record label thing going on. I'm like, it's going to be a waste if I just drop it now.
Yeah.
I was going to drop it on Instagram. I had it loaded up. I was about to press
I'm glad
post.
you didn't.
And I was like, I think it deserves more. Let me just wait. And then in my waiting, I started making other songs and I moved on. But in all the versions of the album that I'd made for the next 6 months, it was always there, like, as in like, it has to be there. It wasn't like, this is what I'm leading with.
Yeah.
This is going to do all of these amazing
This
things.
is going to be the single. It was one of those songs that people chose for themselves.
Yeah.
They listened to the album, they said, okay, this is good, but this
I
one.
like that.
I told you.
And I'm like, okay, what if it is then?
But I think then the rest of the album, I mean, we could speak on forever about this album. Yeah. The rest of the album then becomes a little bit more fun. Yeah. You've got Faithful, which I think is just the best. What? Pull up, Diabatus.
Too much of my fools for my shawty love me good. Gotta give her more than just a minute in my shoes.
Come on.
Show her how I double up the dollar, never lose.
And then was the Younger got the best company or whatever. But anyway, then the album kind of... And I think this is why your album is so good, because it really is this journey of it's almost always constantly going up on an incline, right? Even like you're saying, when we were in that God moment, the God moment wasn't depressing. You know what I mean? The song that features AKA isn't sad, or AKA's song. And then we go into Drakensberg and you've got this now Afrobeats Fela Kuti vibes that I'm obsessed with. And I have to ask this just for my own personal debates amongst my friends. When you say you're a Drakensberg original, are you saying it because you're a South African or because you went to the mountain?
I'm a South African.
Thank you.
So it's based off of the whole concept.
Yeah.
Of the because it first came with that. I'm a Drakensberg origin and Mama Sanin. That's the 4 bars.
Yeah.
Something there.
There's something here.
So I thought about that because I was thinking about Thabo Mbeki's speech of I'm an African. So when he talks about I'm an African, he's not talking about Eastern Cape where he grew up only. He's talking about the country as something that he owns as a South African as well, and he's of. So yeah.
So I was right again. Azola, I was right.
To the mountain? No,
because we were debating the song and it's like, what if it's because... I mean, usuke endabeni, you know, as Xhosa people, and I was like, but I think it's about being a South African because, I mean, there's Khuli Chana is speaking about Stellenbosch and you know what I mean? And there's all those varieties. So I felt, once again, I was right. I'm always right. And then towards the end, we start featuring a lot of artists that don't necessarily, I don't think would ever get that opportunity. I think my favorite part is that you featured these young kids from East London, from the Eastern Cape. Why?
It just, there's a big responsibility, I guess, that I kind of have.
Yeah.
Being like someone that Xhosa rap kind of looks up to, which I'm a bit conflicted by, because I feel like Xhosa rap, like when you say, yo, he's the king of Xhosa rap, it's kind of like, you know, she's the best female rapper.
Oh, the best female DJ. Hate
Why not
that.
DJ? What's going on?
Yeah.
You know, Yankupa equation.
Yeah.
I've always had that conflict, but I also understand the importance of the title Xhosa rap, so that it allows rappers from a certain place to have something that they can own.
Yeah.
And so it's important for me to show up when and where I can in those moments for the kids, because I never had like someone that I could like, you know, say, yo, I need to do a song with this guy. And once I do it, then, you know, I'm exposed directly to my market. I've never had that opportunity. And so to just give it to the kids is like something I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it in music, and in a nice song. You know, Legend, who's on the song, like I have a great relationship with him just outside of music. You know, and I
This is Hands Up.
Yeah,
I love Hands Up.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to end an album.
Yeah. And I wanted to give them the ending moment because it's going to... Lord Faku, The Life of a Dyan is like part 1 of something.
Oh.
Yeah. So this was literally just like, okay, cool. This is where we're at. Just hi.
Yes.
We've made it to this point now. This is what we have. Cool. But the goal is much bigger.
Yeah.
And it involves everybody moving forward, including all of the kids that I put on that project.
Yeah.
And even if they never do anything with me again, or we never ever work again, I feel like as human beings and as professionals, they have shown that they have the discipline, they have the attitude that's required to make a success of yourself.
I think I'm going to give that an air horn. Horn applause. I keep forgetting about this thing. Okay, so we've spoken about Life of a Dyan. You've given me all the answers that I needed to know, and I'm obsessed with that. We've actually been speaking for a while, but I think we can go on forever.
Yeah.
Who influences your music?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends what kind of music I'm making at the time. Influences. My sister a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She's like a normal person. I love her because like she's just living her life, and like she works for everything she has.
Yeah.
And like she's making strides. She lives in like a perfect world.
Yeah.
So she inspires me a lot. My brother as well, my older brother, who's in Dubai.
Utatakho.
Yeah. He's the biggest risk taker. If you thought I was a risk taker, that guy can uproot his life for something he believes in.
Yeah.
So very much inspired by him. My cousin who passed like 2 weeks before Keenan passed, whose funeral I was coming back from that time. We grew up together. We used to come home and like do like singing competitions, drama, like it was crazy. He was like super creative, and he ended up going to UCT and getting an honors in media studies and stuff. So like one of the like pure artists that I've ever met was him. And so he comes up a lot when I'm thinking about how to make it land.
He's almost like he's in your ear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, go harder, change this. What about, it's just there. And also, I think that's pretty much my biggest music influences.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to speak about you being a music director or a director in general, because I think that's something people don't know about.
Yeah.
That when you also started by producing a lot of South African music videos.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, because did you study that? Did you what was the,
Studied film in UJ, audiovisual production management. Dropped out second year to go and chase this rap thing. And then when I was in the rap thing, like, I started shooting like for the website, and then started shooting music videos. I shot a lot of bad music videos for the young Questa.
Give me one so I could go watch it.
Sharp Fede for me, it was a reshoot even. I felt like just trying too hard, just all over the place.
Yeah.
And then I only stopped shooting when I was like, I need to do him solid, and that was Boom Shakalaka. That was the last video I shot. I was like, yo, great.
I'm out.
And then after that video came out, Keenan saw it and said, who shot this video? I want this. And then we went and we shot Control with Les. So like it just connected like that. But I've since, like, obviously I did film and music videos because I just wanted to be in the music making space.
Okay. So you were looking for another angle into it.
Yeah. And then I fell in love with it. Fell in love with it, and like right now it's something I do as well. I direct films and I'm working on some documentaries.
Laka. Yeah. Do you think music videos are still relevant?
Very much so. I just feel like they're too expensive for the economy of music in South A. But they are very, very, very relevant. I think that if you can afford to spend like half a bar on a music video, I think you should do that. Yeah.
Half a bar is insane.
That video is insane. That video is insane. Because you need to think of, like, in 20 years from now, the song is still going to be doing its thing. Better have a nice video, bruv. Please.
But half a bar, dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not like going to buy an M4 for like R1 million.
Yeah.
And thinking that, that's a wise investment, and not being able to spend half a bar on a video that's going to elevate your music, number one, and also like the perception of like who you are in a real way, instead of like the new Louis Vuitton head to toe formula. You know?
But I hate that shit. So.
Rather spend, if you're gonna spend, if you have an itch to blow money, blow it on a music video, bro. Make it crazy.
I guess if it gets a lot of views, it gets monetized, and it almost
forget about the views. Just forget about the views.
Give me more.
And the monetizing, it exists, and it's always attached to any room that you walk into. It's like your best business card. Walk into a room, any brand conversation, you're asking for money for a certain thing, they can always look you up.
Oh, say, it's a reference.
When this guy speaks, he's talking on this level.
Okay.
He's not talking like, let's get two Sonys, and I'm like, why does he need so much for that? No.
Now why are my guys in it?
I had to look like any brand. I was gonna mention any brand.
Now my guys are going to have to go buy Canon. What?
Guys, no offense. This is a great camera. It's expensive. You see, this is 500K.
No, I think I've spent...
This is 500K.
Yeah,
you see?
Okay, Sharp. I've invested...
You see what I mean?
Okay.
You see?
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear you. I've invested in my craft. I hear you.
Thank you.
We're going to do some industry insights now. Cool. I don't want anything spicy from you. I don't want anything controversial. That's not what this is about. But what's your take on the current state of hip-hop globally and locally?
I think producers need to step up now.
Okay.
I think we've out-rapped ourselves into a circle. We've said everything that needs to be said under the sun, and I think the spotlight needs to be put on these producers to come up with something new, something fresh that makes you dance.
Like a different sound.
Yeah, whatever it is. Whatever
Yeah.
it is, but over to you guys. You know, whether it makes you dance, laugh, cry, whatever. I think, now is your chance, guys, because there's only so much we can say on the same beat. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then, is there a trend in music that you would like to tap into?
Afrobeat.
Yeah, we spoke about this a little bit
I
outside.
know you're not a fan.
Okay, don't put me on blast.
Okay.
I'm not a fan, but maybe you'll take me there. I'm not a fan of Afrobeat.
I just like the music side of it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a dancer guy, but it's a dance genre, which is dope. And then it's got like a lot of music elements, and I like the music. And like, R&B is cool, but like, I've been single for a while now, so I don't have material.
We've heard on the album Umoshile.
Yeah.
Tell me something. What's one trend in music you hate currently? It could be anything. So whether it's TikTok dances, whether it's a certain sound. I'll tell you, for example, I can't stand this new hip hop where I don't hear what people are saying. Like that mumble rap. There's many littles now. Can't stand it.
Look, I was gonna say give it time, but I don't think it's for you.
No, it'll never be.
It's for you.
I'm a purist.
It's not really for me either, but I do appreciate. Look, there's so many. There's other dope kids, that don't mumble rap that are doing great. Okay, what I don't like. A trend right now in music. I think, I don't know. We still don't have a way to like identify really dope young cats.
There's no system.
Yeah, there's some dope ones, guys. There's some
Sixelele kaloku Yanga sizawukazinjani. Nguwe Grootman, isn't it?
No, they're gonna say if I'm posting a kid I like, they're gonna say he's aura farming.
They really hurt you on that stream.
What does that mean? I've been wondering. Like,
I explained to you what aura farming is. I've explained
but I
to you.
didn't do any of that. Like, I just went on the stream. I was like, "Yo, what up, hey boys? Out here, not left."
That's literally aura farming.
So befnantini.
But if you go casual.
Yo.
Go yo.
Take a stream.
Quick fire round. Writing or freestyle?
Writing. I can't freestyle.
Oh, okay. No, go ahead.
Questions are heating up.
No, we're almost at the end. Don't worry. We're almost there. Cheers.
I'm aura farming.
2000 hip hop or 2010s hip hop?
Oh. Oof. Isn't it the same thing?
No, it's not. There's a distinct
Because in the
difference.
2000s, I fell in love with the 50 Cents. But then, like, in the 2010s, it was...
It's the J. Cole, Kendrick, Drake era. Remember 2000s, it's... That's why I didn't do 90s. Because I know that one is its own beast. 2000s, it's Jigga, it's Kanye, it's Common, it's... who's the other one?
I have to go for the 2010s.
The 2010s.
Yeah, otherwise there's cookies. I don't know. Let's go for the 2010s.
Aura farming again.
Let me be real. 2010s, they most of those guys are still doing it.
Okay.
In the 2020s.
Yeah. So you spoke about your first album that you copied, but what's the first album you ever bought?
It was an Eminem album.
It had to be Marshall Mathers.
Marshall Mathers, yeah.
Mine was Slim Shady. The first song I ever learned to rap word for word was Stan.
Oh.
And I had a cassette.
That's a big one.
I had a cassette and I put the cassette in and I put the pencil in and then I would play the song and then I would
pause
and then I would write and then I would write.
I've been struggling to like cram people's lyrics, like my favorite songs recently. So I think I need to go back to
but I
traditional.
I think it's the what's this thing called? There's too much.
Yeah.
Back in the day, remember, you have Eminem's album.
Yeah.
And then Jigga doesn't release that year.
For sure. And it's all M and it's the whole
And then it's
album.
it's the whole year, and it's
feel you.
in the car, it's at home, that's it, right?
Yeah.
And then Jigga releases an album, then you have to go beg your mom, and then even that takes a long
Yeah.
time. I think now, you know, obviously with streaming and everything else, there's just too much.
That's actually true because I know Jigga said if you repeat a verse 18 times, 19 onwards, you'll never forget the verse again.
Yeah.
I haven't had time to stream anything.
Impossible.
18 times.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quick.
Okay, and then my final question, because this is basically a show about being a jack of all trades, but obviously jacks of all trades. See what I did there? So the saying
Do you know
always
what I
goes.
thought you would have called your podcast?
Tell me.
Jackson 5. I thought that would have been. But like,
who's the 5 though?
No. It doesn't have to be any 5.
It's just
anything.
me. Jackson 5 because my friend calls me Jackson 5.
Really? What do you do in 5? You're short. If they call you, you're pulling up in 5.
Yeah, Jackson 5. I'm always on time.
Gotcha.
Did you not see me here at 12?
You came here before your crew.
No, shame. Yeah, shame.
Really?
They had a little bit of a, but I'm always on time. Okay, cool. Last question that we ask everyone. Do you think you are a master of your trade?
Which trade?
Oh, Jack. Okay.
No, but to answer fairly, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. And I enjoy, I guess, becoming. Yeah. More than being, really. Because once you are, I just don't know how to act. You know?
Well, we've heard.
Yeah, so right.
So
yeah,
rather we stay within this promise.
Becoming is my thing. And once I become, I'm always like, what else? You know?
Okay, cool. So I heard you shot the What If video. By the time this airs, I don't know if it'll be out yet. Yeah, it should be out. I'm really excited about that. Congratulations on what I believe is one of the best albums to come out of South Africa.
Thank you.
And I'm not in this decade, but I'm biased because I'm Xhosa.
For sure.
But genuinely, I think it is brilliant from the first track to the last one. I can hear the effort. I can hear the growth, you know, from becoming a pop star and all of that. And I think you've been through quite a lot and you've managed to, you know, get through it. And so from me to you, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for being a guest on my show.
Thank you.
And wait, we have it. Wait.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. This is, I think, one of my favorite interviews. It's actually my first, so. One of my favorite interviews. We will catch you next week. I'm not sure what's on the lineup. I'm switching things up, but I don't know. I think we're talking about the South African government. Who knows? Maybe we're talking about fine dining. Maybe we're talking about therapy. But from me to you, thank you so much and have a super day.